So today we're going to have a lovely conversation. We're going to discuss existential psychology and how music influences our mental health. Now, for our listeners that have no idea what I'm talking about, do you mind starting by explaining what existential psychology is?
Yes, absolutely. So existential psychology generally is rooted in existential theory first, which basically puts forth that there are existential what are called existential givens of life, right? Like death, dying, and normal things. But from the position of existential psychology, for the individual, we have an option to choose, right? We have an option to choose despite the existential givens of life. And so existential psychology is rooted in that position, in that the client, the individual really has the power within them to choose which direction or, a potential outcome may come from a certain situation. And so it's really the launch pad for, choice and informed consent for the individual.
And how has this theory influenced how you view music or the understanding of how music influences mental health?
Absolutely. So from the position of existential psychology and talking about music experience, it's the artist, right? The artist who chooses, the artist who takes the autonomy and the leap into what's rooted in positive psychology, the choice to create a desired outcome or desired state of consciousness through music. And so in that way, we make the direct link from existential psychology and music, starting with the artists themselves. Yeah,
Oh, I love how you put those two together. Can you maybe give us an example of how you've put this into your own practice when it comes to psychotherapy or mental health services that you offer?
absolutely. So a lot of the work, so I started out in research, right? So doctoral psychology and
Hmm.
research work, and I interviewed musicians because I was trying to explore the link between that and music. And so what that's gotten me to now is I'm able to do work directly with musicians. I'm able to conduct trainings and workshops and seminars and presentations on how music can be used to foster mental health, to support mental health. And so it's really exciting. One example that I can think of is, like the artist who chooses a certain desired state or whatever using music. So for the artist, it is, it's a, I'm sorry, I got, I lost my train of thought there. Will you ask
That's
the
fine.
question again? Sorry about that.
Just an example of how you've seen music act as a therapeutic tool for individuals navigating existential challenges or mental health concerns.
Okay. Sorry about that. So the work that I get to do is in training and workshop with the use of music. And one example that I can think of where we use music often or most often for mental health challenges is for grief processing, right?
Hmm.
So music in this way is able to help not only musicians but individuals who resonate with music help to cope with grief. It may be one example is an individual who lost a parent. There's a song that they share. Well, that song in of itself has meaning, has psychological meaning. And so the time that I spend with them is really using that song as a prompt to elicit those different emotional responses or experiences and bring to the surface
Hmm.
whatever is going on with the individual. So we're able to process what's happening within with the use of music, supported by music to process grief. So I've seen that happen, and I do that work often with clients. So that's one of the ways that we use music as a way to support mental health.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, I'm sure it works across, but I can see that really working with the kids population, with the youth.
Absolutely, absolutely, and kids are super intelligent and they respond differently. It's funny because generally traditional talk therapy may not work as well with children, in the sense that you want to foster some trust and you want
Hmm.
them to open up. And so, of course, with mental health stigma, music is a great alternative as a way to engage some of those psychological and barriers just around traditional talk therapy as well.
Yeah. No, I love it. You work at the Music and Expressive Arts Center in Oklahoma,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Yes.
When exploring different music genres, how does this music How does it contribute to mental wellness? Are there any particular genres that influence more or less, or it doesn't really matter?
That is a great question. So on the question of genre and music and the connection to that from that to wellness, think about it. Genre is what? A reflection of culture. It, uh, it's a reflection of experience. It's a compilation of
Mhm.
all these things. So even for the individual, back to the existential approach, when the individual chooses the type of genre, then the likelihood that it will inform positive and have a positive impact is higher because they're choosing, even though they may not understand why, they're choosing. Maybe it's that
Okay.
song that I had with my dad that has meaning that I can't fully understand. Maybe the dopamine in my brain is telling me that I need that music, even though I don't know fully understand why. Right. And so this is on the pathway.
Okay.
These are the things that are happening in the subconscious on our pathway to healing that, I'm putting my psychology cap on and listening for so that we can help bring that to the surface and make the connection for the individual.
Yeah. I mean, I know I noticed a difference. Like depending on my mood, I listen to different genres,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah, and it definitely has an impact. We tend when we're sad, we are tend to go for the sorry, sad stories,
Yep.
lyrics, and we don't understand why. You're like, well, why do you want to be sadder? But somehow it makes us feel better. It lets our emotion comes out, we cry it out, and then we can go back to the happy songs, right?
Yes, there was a study done by Dr. Hashmat. He talks about mood and music, right? And why it is that sad songs, we listen to a sad song when we're sad and we feel better. And what he concluded is that it's the desire for the human connection, right? So think about what happens in talk therapy. There are moments where the individual just wants to be seen and heard, right? So music in the same way, even though I've never met this artist, they're saying they're really I can't express myself, but they're really hitting it right on the head. And then that fosters the human connection, right? So we're being seen and heard. And on the other side of the human connection is healing.
Mm.
And so that's also in the article that he put out just about, why sad music, because it seems like a bit of a paradox. Like you listen to sad music when you're sad, and as a result, you feel
Yeah.
better. Yeah. Well, music is magical in that way, for sure.
But it makes sense. We can't hold it in, right? So letting out always gonna make us feel better. Just
Absolutely.
flush it out, I always say.
Catharsis,
Can
psychological
you
catharsis.
yeah. No, I agree completely. When we discuss about your approach to exploring music's influence on the consciousness, how can we understand that from an existential psychology standpoint?
Right. So consciousness, generally, especially in positive psychology, what we're talking about is the level of awareness, right? And so, music and consciousness, the level of awareness. In one study done for musicians, there's a distinct moment that's called being in the pocket. It's a moment, dynamic and distinct moment that happens during music performance. And in that moment, musicians' consciousness is heightened, right? There's being fully absorbed. So there's absorption where you're fully absorbed in the experience and you lose track of time, right? And so but really caught up in the moment, right? The best time you ever had, lost track of time, things
Mhm.
like that. So, and then that's generally associated with happiness, right? The absorption, like, right? Think about the best time you ever had. It's like, oh my God, time flew by,
Yeah.
right? There is the being fully absorbed and experience that, and then also that's also known as the flow state, which Csikszentmihalyi. I'm sure you're familiar with flow psychology, right? Mahai Csikszentmihalyi. So he talks about that. And what's so special about it or unique about it is that that's associated with happiness, right? And so when we talk about existential psychology, which would be on the positive psychology end of the spectrum, generally speaking, that is a real nugget, a real jewel that we find. That is the connection. Like those are the insights around existential, the link really between music, existential
Yeah.
psychology, and happiness. And so that's one example.
Is it always consciously, or it could be consciously and unconsciously when you're
Absolutely.
connecting with music?
Yeah, absolutely. You can be conscious of it in the moment that it happens, but there is a unconscious awareness of time, linear time, so to
Mm.
speak. and then an unconscious awareness, especially for musicians who are affluent, right? Let's say it is a musical solo or the musicians are on autopilot. I've heard musicians say, I was fully unaware of what I played. I don't even remember, but I know it was awesome, kind of thing.
Really? Oh, interesting.
So there is a real play with consciousness there that happens as well. Absolutely.
Yeah, almost like blacking out or not remembering, but I know I did great, but I can't remember. It just
Yeah,
kind of came out natural.
absolutely. Absolutely.
I know you also explore and talk a lot about how music contributes to the shaping of one's sense of identity and purpose. How would you describe this, or can you explain a little bit to our audience about this?
Yeah, so absolutely. So there was at one point I did an on my family's history with music. And so in doing that, I was exploring my roots and my connection to music. Like, why is it that not only am I a musician, my family musicians, all musicians, not only that, but why does it resonate, right? And what is the meaning behind? And so this is basically autoethnography was a journey of self discovery, by which I asked those questions to my dad at the time and my grandfather, and really exploring what it is, what the connection is, and why it resonates so deeply. And so what I found was tremendous, right? And even it's so funny because this is supported by Carl Jung, what he says about collective DNA or DNA, the collective subconscious, right? Why it is that you're attracted to that.
Hmm.
You inherit the DNA of your ancestors, right? And so there was a little bit of that too, like those aha moments. Wow, there is really meaning in why this is my favorite color, or when I hear this guitar chord, it resonates,
Okay.
right? And so autoethnography is one way, but even using the same work with clients, you're able to help them explore and understand what it is that they're fascinated with or what resonates with them. Like, who are they? Who are you on the journey of self discovery, like self identity? These are all questions that we have and we see, especially in the psychology space, right? And then on the other side of that is like this idea of purpose and meaning. It's this circle of exploring and getting back to the core of who you are. And music, I've used music in
Yeah.
a way to do that, and I also do that as well with individuals and groups.
Yeah. I find it so fascinating how you were able to incorporate psychology and your passion of music, and it must be so much fun.
It's amazing. I absolutely love it because I talked about being, those moments on stage where you lose track of time. So even talking about it, sometimes I get lost in it, right? I get lost in the goodness of it. Talking about the research data, and musician participants are talking about how music, there's a
Hmm.
moment where they're up, going up, up and flying like a bird, like those are magical moments. Those are really powerful psychology moments, And so, yeah, this is absolutely a fun ride that I'm on for sure.
Are there any musical elements that you believe have a pronounced impact on addressing the existential concerns of promoting, mental well-being?
Yeah, I would say elements. I would say quality matters. And the
Hmm.
reason I say quality is because even if you're not like the work that I've done is generally with professional musicians. Like when for my research study it was professional musicians because I needed the best
Okay.
of what that experience, especially exploring the phenomenon. I needed the best of what that experience could offer, right? And so in doing that, I learned that quality matters, not only for the musicians, but for the audience. You know what I mean? Like if you have a craving for a specific song, you want to hear the, best version of it. Or if it's by a certain artist, that's what your soul is craving, right? That level of quality, and then what happens in response to that, there is a relationship to the quality. So that's one element that has to be in place for sure in order to get the most juice from the experience for sure.
How do you help your clients, or how have you helped your clients or students or anyone you've helped in engaging with being mindful? like mindfulness and music to enhance that existential realm.
Absolutely. So being mindful, it's just about heightening the awareness, right? So introducing the prompt, using music, exploring what's going on, and then listening for the insights, listening for those moments of aha or enlightenment, right? Because moments matter, no matter how small. In a session or in a group training with, let's say 20 people, there's always aha moments, but it's different for each person, right? So if one person
Mm,
has a moment of like, wow, I didn't realize that that's why I love that song so much. And then the tears come. So you've got psychological catharsis, you've got the enlightenment,
mm.
and then that individual got what they needed out of, within a moment. You know what I mean? And so their mindfulness space has
Yeah,
really been elevated in this way because now they're more aware of something that was already either within them or around them
yeah,
they hadn't really maybe paid much attention to. And so it's through this process of you know having a heightened awareness experience that now you're able to walk away with that and then maybe use music even with intention going forward. Absolutely.
what about, because when we think about music or when we're speaking about music, you understand, like, music with lyrics. What about when people meditate and they're listening to some kind of background noise or music? Like, would that also be considered, um, could that also help? Like, is that also a genre of music that can help you in your mental well-being?
Most certainly, most certainly. Because remember, it's the individual who chooses, right? So you may not
Mm,
be in the mood for lyrics in the moment, right? And so, yeah, it's the individual who chooses, and again may not understand why they're choosing a certain instrumental or music with lyrics. But yeah, it's we just have to pay attention to that and listen to that, and that's the information that we use to lead with. What is it that your soul
yeah.
craves? What music did you have for breakfast this morning? And then we unpack the why of all of it.
Yeah. It's a lot of thinking because you're right. A lot of people put music and they don't, this makes me feel good, this makes me feel bad, but they don't really analyze it or
Right.
think about it. So I love the idea of bringing it into the therapy, right? And actually like dig in. Like, okay, why do you like this? Why is this bringing you sadness or happiness? Now, I want our listeners to understand a little bit more about existentialism and Carl and Natalie Rogers. Do you mind giving us some schooling on that?
Sure, sure, sure. So Carl Rogers is one of the founders of humanistic psychology. And humanistic psychology is in existential psychology really believe that the individuals are unique, right? So generally we're all trained, and I say we practitioners in America are generally trained in behavioral psychology and then a ton of theories, right? Especially if you're a practitioner. So behavioral psychology is one, but with humanistic psychology, the position is that, we understand individuals are more unique and maybe approaches could be more holistic or integrated, right? Than just, behavioral, theory driven practices.
Hmm.
So that's one thing, but you hear a lot of people talking about empathy and things as the mental health conversation is more in the forefront now. Well, Carl Rogers, pretty much coined person centered and empathy and congruence and person centered psychology is really the foundation of the work that I do in expressive arts. His daughter Natalie Rogers took person centered psychology as a root and then created person centered expressive arts therapy. And
Mm.
that's the work. That's the root and foundation of the work that we do at the Music and Expressive Arts Center of Oklahoma of Miyako. So it's all rooted in that. But not only that, where I did my doctorate at Saybrook University, which was founded by Carl Rogers, Rollo May, Arab Maslow.
Oh,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. And then the program
Okay.
that I graduated from, Natalie Rogers actually taught in that program until 2015 when she passed away. Not only that,
Wow.
of all the people that she trained was and chaired on their dissertations was Dr. Terry Gosling Jones. Well, Dr. Terry Gosling Jones was my dissertation chair. So it's nice to come through that lineage of expressive arts
Yes.
theory and therapy, and so that's really the foundation of all of it. It's cool stuff because I didn't even realize that I was in that program, reading about Natalie Rogers and Carl Rogers masters, but then landing there for my doctorate and then really just soaking it all up. But it really speaks to what I believe, person centered, here and now focused, the power of what's going on with individuals in the here and now, showing empathy,
Yeah.
as if I'm the other, putting myself in their shoes. And so, yeah, that it's definitely the root of it's awesome stuff that they've done. I'm happy
Mhm.
to, contribute in a little bitty way, but it's definitely
Yeah.
cool stuff.
I love it, and you're right, when we're trained here, we're thrown with a bunch of theories and pick one, and you're like, "Wait, but I like a little bit of all of them." So,
Absolutely.
it's insane, but, I love the humanistic approach. I love, like I said, then involving the music with existentialism and all that. I'm really fascinated by it. What about if, well, we talk about empathy. What about cultural diversity? I can only imagine that has it could play a big role when it comes to the therapy.
Oh,
Does it?
yes, it does. Because again, when we talk about cultural diversity, the first thing that we have to address is the elephant in the room. What is that? Cultural stigma, right? A lot of cultural groups, especially when they hear the word psychology, you're a therapist, or you're a psychologist. The first thing is like, well, I'm not crazy. I don't need to talk to
Yeah.
anyone, right? So that's one of the things. Another thing that commonly comes up is that, in my culture, we don't talk about personal things outside of the home, right? And so there are just a few things. And so one of the things that we've seen too is that with the introduction of music and art, that is something that is generally more inviting, right? It's a little bit less stressful.
Mhm.
Anxiety is kind of reduced, and people are generally more open to give you a listening ear. And music is naturally inviting in that way, right? You can be walking through a park, you hear music, and somehow it's an invitation to come closer and join in, right? So we use that, we
Yes.
know that, and we use that as a way to facilitate all of our workshops.
Yeah. No, I think it's very important, that factor, the cultural diversity in all types of psychotherapy and,
Yes,
and the health system, all of that. But it's very true. Hispanics, which is where I come from, that is also seen as well. Like you don't go see a therapist unless you're crazy. You're not supposed to talk to your school counselors about your family problems.
right.
So it's definitely not encouraged. So I can see that being um, not a risk factor, but like a barrier, right? To for people to go seek help.
Yeah,
And I can totally see how music can break that barrier too. It's definitely a softer opening.
a hundred
Like, you want to
percent,
listen to music
100%.
or do you want to go to psychotherapy?
Right, right. Well, do you want to talk about how the music makes you feel? What are you feeling in the moment,
Hmm.
right? What does it remind you of? Tell me about that experience. Describe what's happening when you cry, or why did, like, when you get the goosebumps on your arm. Tell me more about that. Tell me more about that, right? So you can see
Yeah.
quite easily how music can be used not as a trick, but just as an invitation to lean into, talk therapy, and because it can be talk therapy is definitely it's magic from what I understand, what I know
Mm.
about it. But
Yeah.
getting people to the front door and fostering trust on the front end can be a challenge, especially dealing with not dealing, but working with cultural, individuals from cultural backgrounds, cultural groups. Absolutely.
Well, I love the work that you're doing. I love your mission. For any maybe clinicians that are listening and they're super intrigued about this, how can they go about this? How can they incorporate music into their therapy rooms, or how can they get what can they study? What to look for if they want to integrate this as part of their therapeutic
Yeah.
process with their clients?
Absolutely. So you can always lean into different expressive arts opportunities. The International Expressive Arts Therapy Association is a huge database for these types of therapies and intermodal, integrated approaches with clients. The work that we do at Miyako, Music and Expressive Arts Center of Oklahoma, we are on LinkedIn and we do programming regularly. We do monthly programming. And so, you can always kind of lean into and just kind of poke your head in and see what's going on and really
Yeah.
just learn about the different ways that it's being done, the ways that it's been done in the past, and then also the research that is actively happening about, new pathways, and especially as it relates to therapies and therapeutic approaches using music going forward.
When you talk about new pathways, can you dig a little bit more into that?
Yeah.
I'm assuming what you're gonna say, but
Yeah. No.
don't
So
like to assume. Please
no,
explain.
no, you're good. So new pathways is basically beyond, like, when people hear music therapy, they hear it, but and think they may know what it is, but not really know, but are interested, right? And so we're still trying to figure out some of that now. Generally, speech therapy, occupational therapy, individuals with Alzheimer's disease, forms of, there's like dementia. Music is heavily used in this way, uh, now. But when I talk about new pathways forward, we are exploring new ways of using music in clinical practice, therapeutic approaches, through applications, behavioral health clinics. So that's something that
Mm.
we're actively exploring now, and there are studies being done every day. We're involved in a few different projects that are pursuing this, and so new
Oh,
pathways forward is
nice.
something that has potential. It's something that is fun and cool. And, there's the capacity is pretty broad.
I mean, I love what's to come in the future. I do believe the same way everybody learns in a different way, then therapy should have different modalities for different people, you
Absolutely.
know?
Absolutely. Back to existentialism,
Yeah.
right? So the individual chooses, and there's a reason for that. And so that's what we embrace, and we just accept all of that, and that it comes. We know we really believe that there's meaning in the individuals choosing and being proactive in their mental wellness journey.
Well, I loved our conversation. I know I'm sure we can speak for this for hours because I have lots of questions. What would be your closing statement? Maybe for those that are struggling with mental health, for someone that might be considering your kind of approach or, and, taking music into consideration when it comes to therapy.
Yeah.
What would be
What
your advice?
my advice would be, first listen to yourself, right? Listen to what's going on in your heart, in your head, right? Mind, body, spirit. So listen to what's going on. And then also, use that as an opportunity to, bring it to your level of awareness. You can definitely explore if there's something that resonates with you, there's a reason why. So, you can get with a professional. I always advise people to seek help with a professional and not just necessarily a friend, because professionals are trained in a way that can really protect you and help you, and really help process and reflect those things back in a way that you're basically getting the most out of that. And so that's what I would advise. Listen to yourself, get with a professional that you trust, and, especially if they specialize in a modality
Yeah.
that you think resonates.
Yeah. And explore because, like, some people might not even know that, music is a thing in therapy. So definitely do your research, explore, and you can try different. You can try multiple therapists. I know connection is important. So sometimes you don't connect with someone. It's okay. I know it's a little annoying, but same with a regular doctor, right? Just
Ab-
keep keep searching for that specialist.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Someone who will prioritize, like you said, the connection, the relationship. That's so important. You've got to be able to connect, and then, practitioners have different skill sets. You know, people have different
Mm-hmm.
things that they may specialize in, or are, able to lean in and listen a little bit closer to. So, all that is relative for
Yeah.
sure.
I love bringing different people with different specialties here, because one of the things that I find a lot is that we are educated in the different modalities and all of that, but our clients aren't, right? So when they seek a therapist, they don't really know what they're looking for,
Right.
what, existentialism is, or CBT, or
Right.
EMDR. So I like to bring different people to talk about their specialties to kind of bring out that content and for them to be informed. So, maybe you get with this episode and you're like, oh, wait, I
Right.
want to go to Oklahoma and visit Dr. Jeff Mims. Or let me send
Absolutely.
him an email, look for resources on the website.
Run a or
But
we do online
yeah.
programming as well, so maybe we could catch a webinar or, something like that, expressive
Mm-hmm.
arts workshop. So, yeah, that it's
I'll
it
definitely be looking into it. Yeah. Um, Grief counseling, yeah, when it comes to poems and songs, do help a lot. So yeah, I use those as well, and
right.
I love it. So any kind of webinars, I will be
Absolutely.
looking into.
Absolutely.
But thank you again for being part of this podcast. We will stay in touch, and for
Absolutely.
anyone listening, let us know your thoughts. Let us know, what you think, if you've ever heard about this modality, if you're interested. If you have any questions, leave us a comment, like, and subscribe to our channel. And I'll see you next week.
Thank you so much.
Bye.